companion salute.
Hello, hello. How is everybody? I see some folks already in here. Look at these cuties. I see some Lantis Grayfield Rocker 57. Hello, hello. Sarzak, how are you? Neil Lionheart, thank you for the subscription. AKDylie, what's going on? What's going on? Professor Doc, hello, hello. Everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is twitch.tv/PizzaMaid, and I am the head maid in charge here, Pizza Maid. It is a pleasure to serve you. Oh, I forgot to turn on Mix It Up. Oh, crap. Thanks for reminding me. Thanks, June. Appreciate it. Hold on. We'll fix that. Oh, that's how we're going to start this episode? That's how we're starting this episode? Thanks, June. Thanks. Welcome on in, everybody. Hopefully you are having an awesome Tuesday, which... again, whenever you have a holiday, it just throws me off as to what day is what. So I keep thinking today's Monday, even though it is Tuesday. But welcome on in, folks. It is Tuesday, January 20th, the year of your Lord 2026. And this is twitch.tv/PizzaMaid. I'm the head maid in charge here, Pizza Maid. It is a pleasure to serve you. If this is your first time here on the channel, welcome on in. I'm a Phantasy Star content creator. So whether it be the online JRPGs or the online iterations, fan-made games, or games heavily inspired by Phantasy Star, if they exist, I love to stream them, and I love to share them with you all. What's going on, Smog Champ? Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Oh, we're seeing some new faces in here tonight, and for good reason as well. Hey, Flame, how are you? We are kicking things off. Season 3 of Margarita's Happy Hour starts tonight. And starting things off in 2026, I have an awesome and amazing guest. I cannot wait to introduce you all. You guys already know who this person is. And you guys came out of the woodwork with a myriad of questions, as well as some comments. One of the comments that actually came in that made me laugh is, it's not a question, but AKDylie, how dare you make Gabardi useful? That came from Lantis Grayfield. So I got a good chuckle out of that. We've got a lot of questions to ask Dylie tonight and a lot of things to discuss, so I hope you guys are excited about it. I do want to give a heads up, just so that you know from the jump, we're actually going to be recording this episode, so there is a live VOD of this available on the YouTube channel. So at this time, alerts are currently off. If you type in !MHH guest, it gives you the full details. You will see the pop-up notification for follows, subscriptions, resubs, and raids, but unfortunately no sound alerts, so we don't interrupt the guests from their talking, and we don't interrupt the flow of conversation. So I hope you guys understand, but please know that any support that does come in today's episode means the absolute world. And I was very excited because yesterday we just finished discussing where exactly we were going to be meeting up in tonight's episode. And I'm pretty stoked about this. I believe he's already in there right now. So I myself am actually going to start loading things up as well. Oh, I see all of I see the emotes already. You're waiting for the undefeated. Oh, here you go. I got you. Sorry about that. I don't know why it didn't pop up at first. I'm doing good, Sora. How are you? Thanks for the boops. Thanks for the boops. Hopefully you guys are doing well. I'm going to see if I get this up and running. In all honesty, making sure that the game would load up for me was my biggest concern today, but it looks like it's okay. It looks like it's going to be all right. Maybe. Don't do this to me. You worked for me yesterday. Awesome. All right. So let's get this up and running. All right. Get this going in here. I'm going to jump into an online game and meet up in a lobby. It is official. There is a Margarita currently on Schtserv. I went in there yesterday. I was like, I'm going to make a quick run. And then I'm going to run to an offline lobby, another lobby, so no one can tell. You got your pineapple.
Oh, he's back! He's back! He's back! Oh, God, he's back!
Oh, blurps. I forgot about those. All right, we're going to try to reduce the blurpage tonight. If you guys can be respectful, hold on to your blurps. Hold on to your blurps. If they happen, though. It'll be all right. Okay. So we are here, and hello, crazy dude. Welcome on in. I'm actually going to head into the lobby now and see. No, you didn't do a bad. I forgot to turn off blurps. That's on me. That has nothing to do with you. That is completely on me. Over here in the beautiful yellow Bose chair, we have tonight's guest, Dylie! Oh, I was expecting a phoneme. I'm so surprised. Hello. No, you could, please take a seat, Dylie. Take a seat. I'm gonna have a seat myself if you want to come. Take a seat as well. It looks just like Dylie. It looks exactly, spitting image. No, you did fine. You're doing fine. Let me actually get Dylie in on the call. Guys, we have been promoting tonight's episode, which I'm so excited about. An amazing content creator on Twitch, as well as an awesome speedrunner and PSO speedrunner. There's so much to discuss tonight. So let me, without further ado, bring him on in. So let's get this call up and running. See if he's available. Hello?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, good. I think we are up and running. Folks, if you guys already do not know, you should check out AKDylie, who is an awesome content creator here. I think I've said that a multitude of times, but also probably some of my favorite emotes and badges on Twitch probably are all from your channel. Bless. They're an amazing collection of them. I'm assuming you worked with the amazing Yum Pop Lala for some of those?
Yeah, some of the more recent ones, yes.
Nice.
I've had a few artists do different ones. I did a few myself. Ones I'd say are a little rougher, but I think they have their own charm. I stand by them.
Oh no, they look good. They look good. I'm very excited. I was extremely nervous to ask you to come on the show because I was like, I don't know, you might be busy, you might have a crazy schedule. So the fact that you're here and you're taking time out of your schedule to just be here for the episode means a lot. So thank you so much. The community has given me a whole boatload of questions for you. Just as I said early on in the episode, Lantis Grayfield even mentioned, how dare you make Gabarda useful? So
I don't know if I'd go that far. But I've used it before. It's true.
Do you use it on a regular basis?
Not if I can avoid it.
And guys in chat, if you do have any questions that you do want to ask Dylie as well, feel free to put them in the chat. If we have any time, I'm going to try to find a way to get all of the viewer and chatter questions into tonight's interview. So if you do have them, please feel free to submit them. But first and foremost, for starters, if this is the first time that folks are actually tuning into the episode, first off, thank you. But Dylie, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself and let folks know about you and about your content?
Sure. My Twitch name is AKDylie, but I usually just go by Dylie or AKD. It stands for something along that's from another life in another place in another time. But I've been a regular Twitch streamer since 2019. Did a little bit before that, but not really to this degree. But yeah, I'm most well known for being a speedrunner of Phantasy Star Online. But I do other things on my channel from time to time, like strategy games like Fire Emblem or other RPGs like the Tales of series. But more just sometimes I just do whatever retro game I feel like. That's kind of my jam, is just whatever I feel like, and I don't really do like variety streaming to the tunes of whatever the current games are as much.
I see that you kind of lean towards maybe more, I don't even want to say retro titles, but some of the older titles as to what's kind of out there now. I'm curious to ask, Lantis Grayfield had submitted this as well. What non-PSO games could we possibly expect to see on your channel? And are there any new games that you have planned for upcoming streams?
I don't have anything, I would say, solidified for anything upcoming, but other things I've done in the past that will return. Well, I can say for sure, right now I'm doing a playthrough of Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. Actually kind of just doing a very casual playthrough with my sister, and we're doing voice acting through all the dialogue, and so it's quite extensive because it's quite a very long script, but it's a lot of fun to do it that way. I've also speedrun Golden Sun, like RPG for the Game Boy Advance, and then as I mentioned, Tales of series. I've mostly done Tales of Symphonia, but could do other ones in the future. And other things besides that, like a randomizer for Pokemon here and there, is come and gone. If it's a game that was released in the 20 to 30 year range ago, it's a good decent chance that you'll see it on my channel sometime. Specifically Nintendo games. That's what I grew up with.
Okay. I was curious to ask because I was like, I'm gonna shoot my shot on this one. Phantasy Star 4, is there ever a possibility?
I've thought about it. It's somewhere on the list. There's so many things on the list, though.
Well, if you're going and giving the span of the last 20 to 30 years, you have quite a backlog of games to go through. So that's completely understandable. There's actually a question that came in as well from the community from Shien's Luna, also mentioning they know you mostly for your PSO speedruns, but do you plan to eventually try speedruns for maybe some of the other Phantasy Star titles like PSU or Phantasy Star Zero?
I've thought about Phantasy Star Zero. I do actually have like the means to capture the DS. I have, or it's on the 3DS, but same thing. I'm not thrilled about using that in a speed setting because it's kind of small. I have like the original 3DS, which is really tiny, and it's not the greatest for my hands. But I might learn that one day. It's not too long. Phantasy Star Universe is another game that I like briefly entertained, but from what I can tell, that's like 7 hours, and I don't know if there's like any way to speed that up. So it'd be a lot. And when I like want to learn a new run, I want to at least do it justice and if I'm just winging and feeling lost, it's not a lot of fun for me.
How do you go about even learning new runs? Like when you see, do you kind of, when you decide on a game, where's the thought process or the decision process or something like that? Like it's maybe a game that's constantly sticking through your mind. You're like, all right, I think this is going to have to be the next one that I do. Or is it something that kind of comes out naturally? Where do you go from, picking which games you choose to speedrun versus maybe the games that you choose to just play for general enjoyment?
I'd say most of the games, well, all the games I speedrun are just ones where I got to a point where playing the game casually, I've been there, done that. Like I like to think that I still play PSO casually, but I've sort of graduated from doing that as my main activity with PSO, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And then other things like Golden Sun and Fire Emblem, like these are games I've beaten many, many times. So the way I keep it interesting is to add like a challenge element onto it, and just putting a timer on it, and learning how to kind of deconstruct the game is a lot of fun for me.
Okay. I noticed as well, Smog Champ says that Dylie's going to become a PSO2 streamer. I'm very excited to hear that. Congratulations. Is it going to be base
And maybe
PSO2?
when I retire.
I was one of the fortunate to witness your base PSO2 adventures, and I was very shocked. I will say that. I was like, wow, this is really happening. How did you enjoy that experience?
No, it was better than I expected. I mean, my expectations were nil, so but I stuck with it for like 6 hours, and the only thing that's regrettable is that I didn't get a chance to play it in its original form, because the way they've kind of hacked it up to fit into the new Genesis engine kind of like soured me a little bit, because the story is presented in a very disjointed fashion, so it didn't feel like what the original developers intended.
Okay, understandable. Now, I know that you have been involved with both the PSO community and the speedrunning community for a very, very long amount of time. I'm curious to ask, and a couple of people have been asking, what got you interested in doing speedruns, and specifically, how did you get started into PSO speedruns? This came in from Nanto June and Arliss Bloxer05. Was it speedrunning that led you to focusing on PSO, or was it PSO that led you into speedrunning?
It's a little bit of both, depending on how, like, the perspective, because even before I was a speedrunner, I was following speedruns on Twitch. Like, I followed Games Done Quick all the way back in, like, 2012. I know it's probably a little bit older than that, but did that for a while. I watched a lot of other speedrunners, like, especially for, like, Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, I think was the one I followed the most for a while. And so I was like aware of speedrunning in general, but it didn't like really occur to me, or it just nothing clicked that it's like, oh, there's something for me here. But what was the website? Speed Demos Archive it's sort of still around, but it's not really the mainstream like speedrun resource of today. But back in the day, that's what there was, and I think at some point I just browsed for like what exists for other games, and I did find Phantasy Star Online, which I probably at that time had not picked up in several years, but it was like, oh, let's find that, and I found some of probably what's ever posted there is what was posted 10 years ago, but I remember looking at the glitchless run that was there, and well, just say I thought I could do better. So that planted a seed at the time, and I didn't really follow through with doing a run, but it like kind of got me on the path to say, like, there's a lot of things that I see as potential ways to improve this, and so that kind of got the gears turning.
Okay. And then from there, is kind of the rest they say is history, and you just have always stuck with it. All right.
Because that probably would have been at least a year before I actually started running. I couldn't say, but I had to work up the nerve and do a little bit of practice. It's for me a lot of work to just start a new run.
I feel like there's so many moving parts in something like this, and especially with speedrunning. Personally, for myself as a gamer, anything time-based always gives me, so much anxiety, and I guess, as they say, agita, just makes me very, very nervous. How do you manage to remain so cool and calm under pressure during, working through those speedruns and working through, your own personal best then?
I would say it's repetition, right? When the closest thing I can draw an analogy to, which I've never played like a competitive sport really, but the closest thing I could say is like I learned to get I did StarCraft online ladder for a while, and that's a game that really teaches you to like let go of nerves and just get over yourself. And it's like it's okay, you're going to lose a lot, so just get used to it. And speedrunning is kind of a similar feeling to that when you're starting out, where if you're like me at all, you're very nervous that you're going to make mistakes, and then you do, and then you get over it, and then you're just used to it.
I guess I feel like that's such a natural response and reaction to it. And then every time I'm like, I have to put that foot forward. I have to do it. And then I go, you know what? I'm just going to watch you and all the other speedrunners do it. And it seems like you guys have formed this amazing community. Wasn't even aware that there was this PSO speedrunner community. Is that something that you kind of curated and started, or is that something that was developed by other PSO speedrunners and it kind of just came into its own?
It's sort of like not a new thing, but also like to like have the formal Discord server is relatively recent, because when I was starting out, there was probably like mostly Verilix that was still running, and everyone else was kind of inactive. I think the speedrun.com leaderboard started in 2014, well before I was even close to being aware of it, and a lot of those people came and went in the interim. But I'd say for the majority of my time running, the amount of like active runners is never more than like 2, maybe 3 people at a time. But some people come in, they do one run, they move on, that's fine. Other people come in, do a run every 6 months, come back 6 months later. Some people are just around forever, like me. So we've got, there's dozens of us, but it's kind of cool to see more people have kind of joined up over time, and that's pretty awesome.
There's actually also a question that came in from Nanto June asking about which version of PSO did you get started with? I kind of want to add on to this as well and to see what was kind of your earliest introduction into PSO or into Phantasy Star, and do you have any personal favorites? Like, I see you constantly with the Phonum, but that may not be your personal favorite class. I'm always curious to ask about everyone's favorites within the Phantasy Star universe.
There's 3 questions there, so I'll try to take them in the right order there. So my first version of Phantasy Star Online was the GameCube version. Like I said, I was very much growing up in Nintendo games and Nintendo consoles. So I probably was aware that it was originally a Dreamcast game, but I had no frame of reference for that. I think my first indication that I might not have even known it ahead of time that it might have come out before, because I think I got it for the GameCube, and then I probably noticed, we'll just say in a not very well disciplined computer class, I noticed some other kids playing what sounded like Phantasy Star Online, but it looked very different, and I think in hindsight it was version 2 for the PC, and then eventually found out about the Dreamcast version. But yeah, I probably played the GameCube version mostly offline, and didn't have a broadband adapter myself, and then I went online well after the Sega servers had shut down. Played on community servers for a few years until they inevitably had their own collapse. So I haven't been doing too much online stuff. A lot of the stuff I do now is really just offline still, but I've occasionally go online for that. So let's see, favorite class. Phonum is fun. I wouldn't even say it's my favorite speedrun class. That'd probably be reserved for Hugo Seal.
Really?
By the way, I think you should set your auto disconnect to 1 hour.
Thank you.
I saw you dip out there.
I was like, oh no.
Isn't that a great feature?
I was like, oh crap, it just disconnected me. And I was trying to keep it cool. I was like, no, you saw nothing. How do I change my auto disconnect?
It's in the options menu.
Oh, okay. Let me go back and do that then. All right.
You can do it once you're in the lobby.
All right.
So, as far as other Phantasy Star games, I admittedly have never finished a Phantasy Star numbered game. So the only Phantasy Star games I've ever been are Phantasy Star Online, Phantasy Star Universe, and Phantasy Star Zero. I think that's
really?
it. I've played a bit of Phantasy Star 2, and I'm fairly well aware of the ending of the game, but I've not played it through all the way myself. And then I'm vaguely aware of Phantasy Star 4, and have been spoiled a little bit by that, but I'd still be interested to play it through.
All right. I actually was very surprised by the Hukasil remark. I was like, oh, look at that. I'm finally...
Hukasil, yeah,
it's a good
Hukasil as
class.
a speedrun is, I would say, less luck dependent, and it's just different, but in a way that it's just a really fun class to play because you're a hunter class, but you're also not inaccurate like UCast. I don't mind UCast casually, but in the speedrun context, I really dislike missing as much as UCast does.
Okay.
So they play similarly and yet so differently.
Yeah. I mean, I actually started out myself playing as a Hewn Whirl before making the Hukasil by surprise, and it's one that I've just kind of resonated and clicked with. Although I do enjoy playing a lot of the other classes. Do you feel that there's any classes that you struggle with, or you're just like, oh, this is a real pain in the butt. I don't know if I could deal with this one.
I mean, Funeral is, we'll say, legendarily kind of a meme in speedruns, but like anyone can do well given enough luck. In the speedrun context, Rangers are just kind of weak because Rangers just don't start out strong at all, and they take a lot of ramp up time to be able to keep up with other classes. But casually, like I played Rangers for quite a long time, so I'm comfortable controlling any of them. It's just what's gonna work out to be an enjoyable speedrun might be different. So that's why like mixing it up between casual play and serious play is a good balance for me.
I was actually going to ask about that as well. Is you've been consistently playing this game for so long, and how do you avoid that burnout? Do you feel that even playing between casual offline play as well as speedrunning, do you ever feel that point where you're like, oh, I need to take a break? When do you how long do you feel that that break comes on, and what do you do to facilitate that when you do feel that burnout?
So it's kind of related to being a regular Twitch streamer. When I was starting out, I don't remember how many, if it was like a once a week thing, but it wasn't as much as I do it now. But I did realize fairly early on that there's just no way I could do all PSO all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I had other ideas that I wanted to do, and found a way to just rotate the games I did, so that it wasn't PSO every time I streamed, because it's too much, I think, to get focused on one thing for me, and then if I get sick of it, then I've got nothing left. So I always want to have other things I can bounce around to.
And do you ever feel that, in the course of your speed running, especially when you know that you have these eyes watching you, and this is, whether it be on your Twitch channel or even sometimes on a bigger stage like a RPG Limit Break or a GDQ, how do you kind of handle that? Like, does that shake you? Does that shake your resolve, or you feel just kind of comfortable, like it's not even really in your frame of mind?
I'd say I still get nerves a little bit, but they settle pretty quickly. So I was the kind of kid who would just take the idea of like having so many eyes on you like very seriously for like whatever, like the band performance or the whatever performance that we were doing in school. Is just like that was something that was like really made me nervous, and I really hated giving like speeches in class and stuff like that. But I'd say streaming especially just helped me get over that a little bit, so it's not particularly something that bothers me. Maybe when I was starting out, it'd be like, oh wow, now I've got like occasionally get like the raid from someone big, and like, oh my god, there's dozens of people watching me now. And not that I don't appreciate that, but it just doesn't faze me quite in the same way. So it's like anything else. Just once you get used to it, it becomes easier. You have to just do it over and over.
And then going back to kind of our discussion with regards to kind of all the games under the Phantasy Star umbrella, we actually got a question in from Darth Ignis 66, who asked, in all your years of playing Phantasy Star and all of its different iterations, what are the things that you've always loved most about the games, and what were the things that you always disliked about the games?
Well, since I only have a handful of games under my belt, I can maybe talk about what I appreciate from what I have played. I'm trying to think of like common elements from like Phantasy Star Zero, Phantasy Star Online. I do appreciate the simplicity of Phantasy Star Online, and it's kind of has this brilliance where the game mechanics are very simple, and yet because of the varied designs of like the different monsters and enemies you fight, that I find the game very deep in spite of its simple mechanics. And those kinds of games always stand out to me as something special because they're easy to learn but difficult to master.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would go for then the other Phantasy Star games by extension. Even the numbered games being more traditional GRPGs, those kinds of systems tend to reflect that, where in principle, yeah, you're just selecting, commands from a menu, but there's still cool optimizations you can find over time.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Understandable. And then I don't even know. Now, I know that you've played base PSO2, and I think you've randomly seen PSO2 New Genesis. Have you even touched any of PSO2 New Genesis, or have you just kind of looked at it from afar and just went, I'm okay. I'm good?
I've not really touched New Genesis other than I probably had to like walk through the lobby to get to the base PSO2 or something like that.
That's understandable. That's understandable. And I think that,
That's mostly just like not having the time yet. Like I had waited however many years to get into base PSO2, even just a little bit. So New Genesis can wait for another day, maybe 10 years from now. We'll see.
It's like, when you do it and when it does end up happening, I feel like people are going to just audibly gasp and clutch their pearls and be like, wait, what? It's Dylie? Really? I know I was very, very surprised by seeing you in base PSO2, and it was a fun experience just because I think for myself it was one of the first times that I think I kind of saw you experience it with kind of a fresh set of eyes. And I think it's not even like a skill or a scaling thing, it was just more of you seeing everything for the first time that really kind of fascinated me about it, because you've played so many games that you kind of almost know at this point, to muscle memory or very reflexive to you. It's very interesting to see you on the opposite end of things too, and seeing things for the first time and, learning how the system works and how the mechanics work. So it was really cool to see. I hope to get to see you do more of those in the future too. It doesn't necessarily have to be like Phantasy Star related, but even just trying out maybe older games for the first time and seeing kind of what piques your interest.
Yeah, it's always possible. Some games I feel like, I don't mind just learning the game live on stream, and other games I'd be like, no, I think I want to just, sit in the room by myself with no distractions and absorb it before I ever go live with it. It's just kind of a case-by-case basis.
You can even consider maybe, if you mentioned you were playing some games with your sister and you guys were voice acting, maybe a co-op game could be in the immediate future for you guys too. I know that's one of the bigger things that have been happening as of late, but I don't know many older games that have the co-op feature, so it's always an option. So the debut of my sister on my stream was actually a co-op run of Tales of Symphonia, where we filled in the voice acting where there were lots of lines that weren't voice acted. So there are ways to do that, and it's a lot of fun for sure. I'm gonna have to look for that VOD because I unfortunately did not see that live, so I'm gonna have to look for that. Would that be on like a YouTube channel, or is that just on your kind of like Twitch VODs, or?
It's probably gone thanks to the Twitch VOD policy.
That sucks so bad. That sucks so hard. No. Fine. Does this mean we'll just get another one in the future then?
We probably just finished up one, so maybe in a few years. But there's other games for sure that we will do. And the Path of Radiance, I do. Even if you're not a Fire Emblem enjoyer, if you just like listening to amateur voice acting, then you could do worse than our playthrough.
That's all right. I'll take it
for Path of Radiance.
I'll watch some Path of Radiance. I didn't even know much about Golden Sun until I started seeing your streams on it, and that was kind of a whole new experience for me as well. I was like, I didn't even know Golden Sun existed. I just learned about that. So it's exciting.
Yeah, that's the one where people say like, oh, it's a hidden gem or whatever for the Game Boy. It's a pretty impressive game for the Game Boy Advance that kind of pushed all of its systems to its limit, even though in principle it's also a very simple game mechanically.
Yeah, I may actually have to pick up a copy myself and just give it a whirl, or find some ways to be able to obtain it to go give it a shot. For sure.
Yeah, I recommend it.
Now, I'm actually gonna jump around with a couple of these questions. In preparation for this episode, I actually did some digging online and actually found myself watching kind of past videos of runs that you'd done in the past, and I stumbled upon the RPG Limit Break one. And to my surprise, I found the video where I first learned about you as a PSO speedrunner. It was a rawcast any percent glitched run from 2021. Out of curiosity, when you saw that question pop up, do you happen to remember this run specifically?
I probably should have looked into it a little bit more, because it would have been like Questing for Glory specifically, which was on the RPG Limit Break channel. So I don't think it was a charity marathon, but it sounds like something I did for sure. I probably was trying to show off PSO wherever I could at that time. So that might have been the first like one on a fairly big stage that I did. There might have been one before or something like that, but it definitely would have been one of the early ones. But it's awesome that you found me that way. That's kind of the goal, right? Is to show off the game and say like, hey, this is cool, right? And get people into that might be interested into following that.
Well, one, you played a rawcast and immediately you won me over there. That was where I was sold. I'm going to be honest with you. I saw a rawcast and I went, okay, we're in. Buckle in. We're watching the rest of this. And it was interesting to kind of see your take on it. I know there was some brief moments where there was, I think, some technical difficulties, but I think those ended up getting smoothed over. And then you just kept continuing with the run. But that was one of the first times where I heard just this thorough explanation of why you're doing everything that you're doing. And my husband is a very big fan of speedrunners as well. And he was kind of, listening, and he was gripped by it as well. I'm curious to ask, from all the speedruns that you have done, whether it be Phantasy Star Online or maybe speedruns from other games, is there an all-time best run that you can kind of remember or you think on, fondly or vividly? And I know Arliss Block05 asked this question as well.
Let's see. It's hard to say for other games because I haven't done like a ton of that. Like probably speedruns are 90% PSO and 10% other things. So like most other games I've given like not a lot of attention to. Golden Sun would be the one that's gotten like the second most. And like I'm relatively satisfied with what I've done in that game, but like there's always the feeling like you could do more. That's the eternal speedrun curses. Once you become like knowledgeable about a game, you become hyper aware of all the ways you could improve. And so it's very like I'd say kind of a cliche where a speedrunner like gets a new PB and they're like, this run sucks. And that honestly is my feelings on most PBs. But I would say one run that I'm relatively proud of is the all missions glitchless run, because that was a category that I don't know how many people have run that recently, but I was big on it. And it's roughly a 5.5 hour run, and it's just go through, do all the guild counter missions, and then beat the game. And I think my current PB is a pretty solid time where the only problems really were just luck based and not really like skill issues as far as I remember. It was a while ago, so I'd pick that one.
Okay. And was that probably one of your earlier speed runs, or is that something that you feel like you might have done actually later on down the line? You had more experience with that run going through.
Yeah, that probably would have been after doing like a couple dozen iterations of that, so it wasn't an early run other than the fact that it was one of the categories that I was doing from the start, and eventually I got to a point where I found it to be fairly refined. Yeah.
And do you have any that you kind of not necessarily have a preference over, but there's some that you're just like, no, I really don't want to do that one, but I want to get that PB? Or do you even approach it that way, or you're just like, no, I feel comfortable doing this, or this is kind of what's natural to me?
Yeah, I don't touch categories that I don't have an affinity for, so there's no pressure there.
No. All right.
There are categories where I'm content to get it, just the tiniest PB and then move on, and that's just kind of how I feel. It's like, okay, I've de-rusted enough, I've made an improvement, okay, now on to the next thing. And it'd be nice to keep on refining, but the way my mind operates is I'm just kind of not too invested in staying in one place, doing the same thing over and over.
So then, if I can get into AKDylie's brain then for a second, hypothetical situation where, you've put a lot of work in towards a specific type of speed run, you've hit the personal best or even a world record, and you're like, all right, I'm good, I've done what I needed to do, I've stepped away from it, and then you see another world record come in. Where are your emotions in that? Or are you like, I have to get back and I have to try to get a better time? Or are you just kind of like, I'll let it go, it can go to somebody else?
So I think I'm somewhat of a competitive person, but I try not to view speedrunning in that lens too much, and I've seen it drive other people mad and kind of chasing the world record status, and I don't like that, and I don't feel good for people who get a little too obsessed with it. So I try to just stay very measured about it. If I see my time get beat, that definitely is motivation, in the sense that like I said, I'm under no impressions that any runs I've done are perfect. But sometimes I do get an awakening that, like, oh, there actually is like significant improvements that could be done. It's not like someone got lucky. Like, even though DSO as a speedrun, there's a lot of luck involved. That's usually not the reason why a time gets beaten, is because if you're going to be pushing for a refined time, you also have to make sure to take advantage of all the luck and perform when the time comes at the critical moments. So I would say yes, kind of, but like, I'm not gonna like drop everything to do it.
I didn't
to take a time back.
Well, and the thing is, and I'm very much a constant viewer of YouTube. When you see a lot of those YouTube videos that are created by people about speedruns, and it may not, I don't think I've ever really seen one for Phantasy Star Online, but it could be something like Cuphead, or it could be something like some type of Paizo Super Mario game or some sort. To see how the history of that speed run for a specific category goes, the length of years, and then to see kind of like the story behind it. Of course, it's a little more dramatized for the sake of, a video, but it's crazy to me to see like how it goes. It starts at one world record, and then you see 6 to 9 months later on down the road, there's a new world record, and so on and so forth. And you see, all the inner workings on it. Has there ever been anything in recent memory that has happened with Phantasy Star Online in that regard, or has it always just been a quiet category, a quiet game that everybody just kind of, gets into, and if there's a world record, that's it? It's nothing crazy or chaotic. Like, there hasn't really caused much drama regarding.
Well, there's drama everywhere if you go looking for it, but I'd say, PSO is pretty quiet usually. I'd say the coolest thing that happened was, for the longest time, Phoneme Glitchless was sort of the only glitchless category that anyone ever ran, because, the next fastest category would be Phoneural, but Phony is famously made of paper, so it's not a very reliable category. And then Hunter was just not very refined for a while, so it was just a lot slower, like maybe an hour slower, maybe not quite an hour slower, but just like it was a bigger investment. And what kind of happened maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, in roughly the time frame, maybe I'm forgetting time, because this would have been when time compressed and everyone was staying at home all the time, but there was a lot of development on just doing Hunter glitchless, and the times for that kind of came down probably by like, I want to say like 20 to 25 minutes over the course of a year. And it was just more and more like refining and understanding, like, yep, this is how you play, this is how you route it. And there was a lot of intention on it, all in a short amount of time. And I don't think I've seen anything in the community like that since then. Okay. But that was a cool year to be watching.
Well, I'm definitely, I imagine for all games across the board too, especially during the period of the pandemic, where there was kind of a lull and people were in isolation. I'm sure that was a thriving moment for the speedrunning community. Although, we were in a bit of a global uncertainty, so I'm sure there's some chaotic stuff that happened then. And it doesn't necessarily have to be pertaining to Phantasy Star, but just all games, and maybe even a lot of speedrunning games in general too. So it's always interesting to see. And you've kind of started to tackle now a different, how do I put this? You're still focusing on speedrunning, but now you started tackling into kind of some of your own work with your modding, and I know a lot of people have been very, very excited about that as well. Of course, the PSO tracker has been around for, I believe, a few years now at this point. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But you've been working on this modded experiment, and respectfully, I don't know anything about it. So this is kind of, I know of it, but I don't know the full scope and the full details behind it, where its inception came from, and what it's meant to achieve. So I kind of wanted to, give you the floor on that and kind of pick your brain about that one.
I'll touch on the tracker since you mentioned it really quick. That's probably been around since I've been a streamer, more or less, and it was just a kind of a project for me to make something that if you've ever like watched a stream for a randomizer, that there's usually something like that kind of shows like, hey, what is the person gotten, or what, even if you're not using it for streaming, like it's a useful tool just to know like what have you gotten, what is there still to get. And I, watching some glitches runs back in the day, it's always like, oh, did you get this level of this technique, or is that a different level? And then you can just get the answer on screen. It was kind of fun to put together as a little bit of a project. So for the mod, where do I start? So there's been some extent of tools available to go and edit some of the data files in the game for years and years, and for the most part, that's just kind of a novel thing. Like, everyone always has their own ideas for like, oh, how can we take a game and make it better? And I'm no exception to that. But I did start with a specific goal in mind when I started tinkering at all. And originally it was just tweaking the experience values for episode 2, with the intent that you could run through episode 2 from level 1 and beat the final boss in normal mode without having much, no need to grind and no need to repeat stuff, no need to get exceptional luck, but just would say Sonic Team's original pass at value tuning is notably lacking in terms of giving the player enough to succeed at that. It's a very punishing episode, and if you just run it through, you're usually going to end up at a lower level than you would if you did episode 1, and you're going to be facing much harder stuff. So I was thinking, like, what if you could just get a few more levels and then end up with kind of a more fair final fight? And that was my goal. So just tuning things up in that regard to try to make a more pleasant, solo experience.
Mm-hmm. And then
since then,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, continue.
Well, I'd say since then it's kind of evolved into a way for me to learn disassembly, reverse engineering, creating patches, all sorts of aspects of programming that I didn't have much exposure to. But it's been a good excuse to learn that, to figure out how to add new behaviors to the game, change how different game systems work. That's where a lot of my more recent focus is beyond just editing stats of things, but also saying like, well, what if this just worked a completely different way, and just how could I make that happen, and how can I figure out how something works? It's all very cool to dissect the game and figure out where certain code is happening and then change it to be something else.
So I'm curious to ask, in total, if you had a estimated amount of time, how long has it taken you to, go through this project? I know that it's still ongoing and it's not completed yet, but how many hours do you feel that you've already invested into this modding project? And does this project even have a name, or does this experiment even have a name?
I don't have any real name for it at this time. I've thought about it, but probably can come up with a real name when there's a need. Because for right now, it's mostly just hey, here are some cool ideas, and I show it off on stream to kind of get the feedback of like, does this make sense? Is this a good idea? And my intent is more to develop my skill as a game designer, and I try to approach things from this would be fun, or is this fun? And then try to figure out if it is or if it isn't, and try to go from there. So, I've said there's an end in mind, but it's a long ways off. I don't have a formal scope or checklist of things I want to get done. I have kind of just a I mean, I guess I have a list, but it's just like I keep adding things to the list, and it's usually faster than I cross things off. And my goal is like to not have an unrecognizable game. There are lots of things I think once I can drop the pretense of like saying like, oh, I can just change a few things about the game and it'll be perfect. And I was like, well, why not go all in and just tweak everything a little bit and see where it takes me.
It sounds definitely at this point it's become a little bit of a labor of love and kind of a baby project. Is it something that you're handling and working on solo, or do you have some other hands helping you on this project, or at least at the very most maybe fellow friends and other fellow players that have been able to do some playtesting for you?
Right now, all of the development and playtesting is just by myself, but I do get help from other PSO developer gurus that can help explain certain systems, or at least point me in the right direction for where to start looking when it's just beyond me, because I'm still, I'd say maybe only one step above a novice at this point to do some of that reverse engineering work. And there are other people who have pretty much dismantled the game and know it front to back, or at least can find answers very quickly. So I very much appreciate their help.
I'm curious to ask, how do you find the PSO developer gurus? Like, obviously you're not putting that on a Craigslist post. Like, you're not like, hey, I'm looking for some PSO gurus. Like, how do you stumble upon them? Because I could use help with a couple things myself. I'd be like, listen, can you explain and break this down for me? Where's the networking circle for them?
There's a circle for there's a little cabal in a small corner of Discord somewhere. So depending on what you need, I'm sure we could hook you up.
Oh, we may talk after this episode. We may discuss things after this episode. I was just very curious about it all, and it sounds. I don't want to put my insight on it. I want it to still be free form to everything that you've explained, but it sounds like, in my mind, the way I envision it is this very big PSO episode 1 and episode 2 sandbox, and you can go about it in whichever way you feel, and you can tweak things to make things your way. Am I wrong in that line of thinking, or am I close, or nearby the basic trajectory or the basic point of the concept?
For what I'm trying to build, I'd say I'm more or less, I'm not looking to change what the game is or how it's played, but just like in a fundamental way, like not adding any game modes necessarily, but it would be more like today there's a certain meta that's developed because people naturally want to go build whatever the strongest character build they can get is, and one of the themes is for me to look at that and say, like, okay, so there are 200, 300 some items in the game, and about 20 of them ever see the light of day. So can we make the other 180 more interesting? Things like that.
Okay. And I know we had actually a couple viewers also submit questions too. If you have the answers to these, or if this is something that you're still kind of keeping as a discretion, that's understandable as well. But when can we, from Nanto June, he asked, when can we expect your PSO mod project to get a full release?
I have no commitment to releasing it at this time, so stay tuned, and I've only promised that I will keep working on it.
Oh, okay. We also had a question that came in from Lantis Grayfield, who asked, adding to June's question about the mod project, how do you go about choosing what gets modded and by how much? I've watched you test these things. Are you just looking at the output of the numbers, or are you feeling things out as you go?
It's entirely vibe-based for what goes in and what stays in.
Okay, gotcha.
So I kind of maintain a channel where I kind of just usually speak to a room that doesn't say anything back, but sometimes I get a little bit of feedback and just saying, like, is this a good idea? And I just try to explain my thought process, if nothing else, than to just record my thoughts of, like, what was I thinking when I put this in, and try to justify it. Like, if I do ever release this, I'll have a bunch of notes from that channel to say, like, okay, this is why I did this, because I do keep like a spreadsheet of a pretty complete, maybe not like thoroughly detailed list of all the changes I've made. And if you look at that, it probably looks like some mad scientist running wild was like like, what have you done to my PSO? Like, I can't believe you changed like 100 different things. But like I said, my intent is to make it not feel that different in the end, with like very few exceptions.
It almost sounds like, to a degree, it's quality of life features, not necessarily from a UI or a mechanics end, but just, there's some things that you want to give highlight and focus on. Like you mentioned, those 120 items, you only see 20 of those, so you want the other ones to start being highlighted. It sounds like it's basic quality of life changes that you can kind of turn on and off at your whim. So
It could end up being something like that too, where there might not just be like one released product, and it might be like more like build your own thing, and that kind of depends on whether this ends up getting built as like a solo game only, or if I ever intend to like keep a multiplayer version enabled for it. Like, that's the trick with modding, right? It's this is possible because it specifically, I'm keeping it to myself. Like, you can't just go do this kind of thing and then take it online, because no one else will be able to see the changes you make to the game. That's what we call cheating. So
Yes.
So it's in the framework of like, oh, PSO is actually a perfectly fine solo game too, and a lot of people enjoy it that way. Then you can start to experiment with that and not bother anyone by anything you're doing. But maybe eventually can at least test it out with other players and see how things go.
Now, do you actually, from the position of where you are as, the creator and kind of the developer behind this, do you carry any apprehension about bringing this live or bringing this to the general public for fear? Not necessarily fear. Maybe a better word is reluctance, because you may see a lot of feedback come back saying, oh, can you do this? Can you change this? And you're kind of like, no, I did this with one set intention, and now it's kind of being stretched very, very thin. Do you have those reservations or hesitation about it?
I wouldn't say that's a major concern. Like, every now and then someone will go onto Twitch and ask like, oh, can we put like insert blue burst item here into the game? And I'm like, maybe, but I don't see why I would do that. Like, my intent isn't just to make like blue burst on GameCube or anything like that. So like, I'm fine fielding questions like that, but I can just say like, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, I'm not interested in that. And if I do ever do a full release, I would like to build something from the notes that I've taken and try to like at least make an extensive, like, I don't know, like maybe like a website that just explains like what the vision is, and instead of making it look like, just Dylie's made it up as you go along thing, even, no matter how true that actually is, like at least sort of like establish like a framework of like, yes, this is why this changed, and this is why I didn't go farther with this, or like we're just trying to tune it in this sense. So I hope, at least for people who've been following it, they kind of agree with the vibe of like minor tweaks, and you can always make suggestions, and if you're okay making a suggestion, you're hopefully also okay with it being shot down. Like, I'm okay with suggestions being given in turn if you approach it with that in mind.
Okay, fair enough. The fact that you mentioned it now in my mind made me briefly think of a Choose Your Adventure, and I was like, oh wow, I love those books as a kid. I was a fan of those. This is Dylie's Choose Your Adventure. You have to go to page 8 through this episode to figure something out. And I mean, it's a fun concept, but that's personally just out of my mind. That's what I came to. I was like, oh no, where in the world is Dylie San Diego?
Well, and the way the GameCube version especially is managed these days is, even on the community servers, like, you sort of get that experience already, where there's a lot of patches that are offered to the players, and a lot of them are essential and recommended, and others are like, take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the cool thing about the GameCube version is that it's very customizable, in a way that, like, I know Blueburst has a lot of like external add-ons for it, but it's not quite the same kind of stuff that you get on GameCube.
Now, did you kind of go into that knowing that you wanted to focus solely on the GameCube version, or did you even kind of entertain the thought of, oh, well, if it works well on GameCube, maybe I'll try it on this version, or possibly even try on the PC version? Or were you always just kind of a one-track mind of, start small and start with, the core essentials of what you have in front of you? Let's start with the GameCube and let's just keep at this and see where we go from there.
Yeah, probably a long time ago when I was still playing Blueburst at all, I might have decided to start working off of Blueburst, but the GameCube version is my preferred version as a base game, so that's kind of where I started, and I don't know if I would have any interest in trying to take it to another platform, because it's honestly going to be a lot of work just to finish up things on one version, let alone like some ideas might transfer to other versions, but they might also have to be just completely re-implemented depending on things.
I'm seriously rooting for you because I am the eternal checklist person myself, where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to put together this to-do checklist and I'm going to take care of A, B, C, and D. And then it's like later I'm like, oh no, I've added 24 more things and I didn't even complete A and B. So I wish you the best on that. And I hope there's a process behind this where you're able to start crossing those things off, because I worry for myself. I know I get very worried where I'm like, I overwhelm myself in those moments and I'm like, oh crap, I bit off more than I could chew. But it doesn't sound like you were like you're taking this at your pace and at your at your speed. So I'm hoping that that's not a worry.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weekend project, and honestly I don't get enough time to work on it because it sort of is. I will, I say I play test it, but it's really just like, I feel like playing PSO today, so can I like get something quick off the list and then could justify that as like making progress on testing this, and just to not let it keep on lingering and getting no progress.
And when you do this, and I'm assuming you also, do some play testing, or you work on this, not necessarily the developer end of things, but just trying and testing things out on stream. How has your community reacted to it, and what's their general consensus on it thus far?
I've gotten mostly positive feedback. I kind of explain my thought process, and I don't know how many people read every single thing I post on the giant spreadsheet of things, but I know if people have given positive feedback on just saying like, oh yeah, I agree with most of this stuff, and it's like, okay, I guess I'm not on a completely wrong track. Mm-hmm. As far as like, I don't know, it's one of those things that's, I don't never know if like people are just too afraid to give criticism, because a lot of people don't take criticism well, but I'd always say like, if you can like politely or respectfully give a criticism, I would actually rather like see that than not see that.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever taken you for a person, or at least you've never presented yourself to me as somebody that would take criticism negatively. I think so long as it's presented to you in a constructive and respectful fashion, I don't get that. But from what you've explained, and from questions that have been asked for tonight's episode, as well as just in general discussion amongst us in our communities, it sounds like it's a great project from the start. I won't really fully know more about it until I kind of see it for myself, and unfortunately I haven't been able to watch many of the streams. I may have caught a couple streams here and there, but never in its entirety. So I'm just curious to see how it rolls out, and it seems like everything is, again, on your time. It's not going to be something that's going to be rushed or anything like that. So I look forward to it. Yeah,
like if you ever catch a stream, it's going to look a lot like playing PSO, because that's the intent, is to not look that different from PSO. Mm-hmm. But you might say, like, oh, that mechanic is different, and then that's neat, or that's weird, but it's not like there's anything, the idea is not to be a completely different game. And that's kind of how I draw the line, is like, if I wanted to make a different game, I should just make a different game. Hacking up PSO is a lot more work than just making another game, probably.
Oh, well, listen, when I do go onto your streams, there's a lot of math being thrown around, and there's a lot of numbers being thrown. And again, I respect and love watching your content as a speedrunner. And when I see all the numbers and, the calculations that are going back and forth between you and your chatters, I'm in absolute awe. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm following it, because I do not math well. And I'm just going to be honest with you there. I'm just like, I understand what they're saying. I don't understand the specifics of what they're saying, but I understand where they're getting at. So it just sounds like a complete pool of just these brilliant minds, just, kind of brainstorming back and forth and discussing, well, if you do this way, you'll have this probability of this working, and then you'll give your explanations as to why, yes, this is possible, or no, this isn't possible. That's how I've always kind of approached your streams, and it's one of the reasons why I kind of consider myself a little more of a quiet lurker. Or I'll occasionally, you know, chip in and be like, hey, you're doing great. And I'm like, just be the cheerleader, Pizza. Just root for them. That's the best thing you can do, because I never want to, you know, speak out of turn and be like, I don't know what that calculation means. What are you getting at?
It's not a problem if you ever, like, I always welcome any questions. You don't have to keep up with the conversation, and if you know, kind of like your chat's doing right now, if you just want to post emotes, that's perfectly fine too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, chat, those emotes aren't for me. Those emotes are for you. It's PSO math feels good, man. And dance party in the background. I think there's actually a couple people currently in the background that have been jumping in throughout the course of it. So to folks that aren't aware as well, we are currently playing on the Schtserv, or we're currently actually just sitting down and hanging out in the Schtserv servers. If you do have access to that and you'd like to come in, we're currently on Ship 1 Voyager, currently in Lobby 5. So if you guys want to take a seat and plop down, and if anybody has any questions in chat as well, please feel free to get those in. There's still about, I'd say, another hour to go of tonight's episode. So if you do have any questions that might have been missed, please feel free to ask them. Again, as long as they're respectful and within reason, you guys are more than welcome to. What we are going to do right now, though, is we are going to take a quick 3-minute break. During that time, if you are a subscriber of the channel, you'll get to continue to enjoy with ad-free viewing. But if you need to take this time, or you're unable to subscribe, no, that's completely understandable. If anything, take that time to just get up, stretch, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, and we will be right back in 3 minutes. So sit tight. Well, now I'm just going to come into your channel and start dancing. I hope you're ready for this. I don't know what yet, but I'm just going to start throwing all the dancing emotes. I might even make one for you. Sounds for good. My channel. You just need to let me know awesome. What you want. I wouldn't know. I defer to you. Do you want Ruckman doing a dance for you? I don't know what Ruckman would do. I refuse to have Ruckman twerking. That's just not going to happen. I'm going to put a hard stop on that. Is that a PSO2 thing? Ruckman? Isn't that one of the mag cells? Or is it Rookman? Am I pronouncing it wrong? Oh, Rookman. Did yes. I say Ruckman? Sorry, I just spelled it out of my head and it didn't come anywhere close to, like, it sounded like a Mega Man thing, like a Ruckman kind of thing. Every time I've heard it, for whatever reason, and this is, again, the direction that my mind goes in, it always reminded me of Teddy Ruxpin, so that's why I've always pronounced it Ruckman instead of Rookman. But it's I butcher things all the time, without fail. I don't even know if it's actually pronounced Rookman, that's just how I've always said it. Well, I'm also on record for intentionally saying Zond, but it's actually Zonda and stuff like that. You know, one day someone is going to correct us, or at least someone will at least bring clarity on the situation, and then we'll be like, now we know the truth. It's finally been revealed. And then we're both way off. You're like, really? You're supposed to pronounce it like that? I'm just going to call him Bob from here on out. But yeah, we are getting towards the second half, and we actually have one more question left. This one's going to be a much, I think, bigger question, a little bit of a beefier question about speedrunning and kind of giving folks the primer and where to go. And I want to see if there's any questions that chat live might have for you as well. So for any active chatters that might have a question for AKDylie, be sure to get those into the chat. I will do my best to try to look between things, and yeah, we'll be running on the tail end of things. Hopefully you had a good afternoon, though. I know that you had another prior commitment, so hopefully that went well. Oh yeah, I was actually able to finish that up early. It wasn't too bad, but it still took me a little bit to get back. So it was good. It all worked out. Oh, good. We're currently right now, like, I'm trying to compartmentalize all these different things. I'm currently in a situation where I have all of these dishes in the air, and they're all Mom's Fine China. So I'm trying to give all my dedicated time and effort to those things. So as soon as you told me, you're like, I might need just I'm like, got you. Don't you worry about it. I want to be respectful of that. Dad bod, the Hugh cast gets me. The cast in the back is some kind of Nightmare, or at least his assistant. I see that you have a lot of your community members coming in, which is awesome. Yeah, I see a few faces. I see Lene and Nightmare, Smogchamp, Lantis, of course. Yeah. Lantis is also a moderator here on the channel. She's been taking things like a champ right now. There is a question that she actually did just ask right now. She goes, not a question, but I'm a Fomar main. How dare you improve Kebab? So I don't know what you're doing, but why must you improve all the things? How must you improve all the things?
I don't know. To be fair, I don't think I've ever run Fomar, so I'll take your word for it that it's improved on or something like that. Like I said, I try not to use it, but sometimes you're given nothing else.
It's actually really funny too, because I saw, maybe it was around New Year's or maybe at the start of the new year, there was a massive run that you were doing, and I was watching you spend multiple times killing lilies. I didn't know the premise behind it, but I have never been so enthralled in one person going back and forth to kill lilies. I think it was trying to get a drop, and we were all placing our bets as to how long it took for you to get the drops that you needed for, I think, what was a full game speedrun, if memory serves me right?
Yeah, what I call ultimate glitchless, or what's also known as all difficulties glitchless, where at some point we figured out, yes, you can actually beat PSO ultimate mode starting from level 1 in under a day. Now, is it a good idea to do that? I do not recommend this, but I personally can't help myself sometimes, and I kind of get this idea in my head that, like, yeah, I can do that, and it's fun, but it is exhausting. I actually we'll say had a revenge run just on Sunday. I tried again, and unfortunately the last two tries did not complete, but at least I, up until the very last moment, had what looked like a pretty promising time, so I'm still fairly content with it. But yeah, the thing you're referring to is Skyly on very hard mode has a very useful drop called God HP off of the Nar Lily. It's a 7/8 drop rate. So if you play on the GameCube version or any console version, the game doesn't really remember whether a rare enemy is spawned or not. It just re-rolls it every time you enter the area. So if you just go back through a telepipe and you go back to Painter 2, go back down, you get another chance to see if you get the rare enemy. And this is a very famous way to hunt certain rare items, because rather than going through and dealing with like 1 out of 10,000 drop rates, you can get a much more reasonable, like 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 200 drop rate off of these rare enemies. So that's a lot of ways that people like to hunt certain items, and in the speedrun it's very useful because the main reason why you can or cannot finish a run in PSO often comes down to, do you have enough HP to survive the attacks that you can't dodge? Mm-hmm. And there's a good amount of HP needed to survive ultimate Darkfalls. And for Phonum especially, you need 3 and sometimes 4 just to have a good chance.
So, if I recall correctly, and I'm trying to remember some of the figures in my head, I think the general estimate at the time on the tracker was within 500 you should be able to get 3 God HP. Did it actually happen within 500?
Oh, I'm glad it's not 500. It was like I think the average was like 175 for the median. I think SmogChamp probably has all the specifics on that, but to get 3, just to get like 1, you go to that one spot in Waterfall Tears where you can get 9 lilies to spawn at once, and it's a 1 out of 500 rate for them to appear. So if you do all the math, oh yeah, maybe that's what you meant.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Yeah. I saw 1 out of 500, and I couldn't remember if that was for the drop rate of the God HP. And I was like, he's gonna try this 500 times? Are you for real?
Yeah, in the very first run I ever did, the route still got 4 of them, and it took me, I think, like over 400 rolls to get it. And I've never had good luck on this. Like there's the theoretical odds, and then there's what I get, and it's a very tedious activity, but it's still faster to do that, unfortunately, than just playing the game normally, if your goal is just to get HP. So sometimes that's just how things are in speedruns, where you may not enjoy what the peak performance is, but it is what it is.
Oh my gosh. I just remember vividly that point. And I was in awe because I was like, oh man, the dedication. And the fact that you did that within a day. How frequently are you pulling the ultimate glitchless runs? Or is it just like, oh, I don't remember it being so bad before. Maybe I'll give it a go again. And then you're like, oh, now I remember why I haven't done it in such a long time. What's the frequency as to when you decide to do ultimate glitchless runs?
So I did it the other day only because I failed it a few weeks before, and only because there was a holiday yesterday, so that I would have that extra day to decompress. Because that's ultimately what's required. Is I can't just do it on a normal schedule, because the next day I am not 100% there. Even if I were to go to bed on time, there's just something about streaming nonstop for that long and thinking nonstop about the game and not really like relaxing at any point during that makes you kind of just burned out for the next day. So when I first did this, the run it took like 23 hours or something like that. It was much less refined than what's done now, and I was like, okay, I'm good for a year. And then next winter break came up. All right, let's pull this out again. Do it once, I'm good. And it worked 2 years in a row, and I was like, okay, we'll do it a third year. But doing it more often than that, not too interested. And this time I was only did it more because I felt like I could give it another shot and maybe not fail. Unfortunately, it didn't work out.
Do you feel, in some regards, this isn't any of the questions that I've asked before, but it was something that kind of came to mind just for you as a content creator and as a streamer. Do you almost feel that it's not necessarily a burden, but it's kind of more taxing on you to be streaming and speedrunning at the same time versus, just doing some offline speedruns to work on your personal best? And how do you kind of, or if it is mentally taxing, how do you kind of work through it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I would definitely never say it's a requirement to live stream speedruns, but that's my preference, even though I know that inherently it is a distraction, right? Because I don't mind when people ask me questions during runs, and in fact I kind of enjoy it, because sometimes there are just tedious parts where it's like, yep, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. So if we can carry on a conversation, that's always appreciated. But like strictly speaking, yeah, I could go go into isolation and really grind out things, but I don't think I would actually have the patience to keep that up.
Yeah, I feel like for myself, watching other people do it, I find myself, especially when I'm playing games, having that multitasking, depending on what the game is. I have the energy and the wherewithal to be able to do it, but sometimes it could be a little mentally taxing. So I don't know if I could do speedrunning in general, which is why I applaud and respect every speedrunner that exists. And this isn't just, mutually exclusive to PSO. This is just speedrunning in general, just to watch it and to see that repetition go over and over and over again. And I know a lot of the questions that we had throughout the course of, tonight's interview, one of the questions, and it's the final question, but I have a feeling we're going to be a little bit at length with this one, is what tips would you have for PSO speedrunners? And for folks like myself, I'm intrigued by it, but I really don't know where I would go to take the plunge, where I would start. I'm curious to kind of get your insight and your input onto what would be the best approach for starting this and where to go from there.
Sure. I've thought a lot about this even before tonight, because of just kind of understanding that different people have different goals, and that's all right. I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of seeing, like, you see the number, like, or you see like the top 3 runs on a leaderboard and say like, oh, if I can't get that, then like what's even the point? And it's very easy to fall into that trap without realizing, like, those times on any game that's gotten like a significant amount of attention was probably had dozens of hours, if not hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours put into it to get to that point. And that goes for any game, not just PSO. And so for some people, they're only interested in chasing that. And my general advice is like, well, if you want to do it that way, that's fine, but don't feel that's an obligation. Everyone has to start somewhere. My times were not great when I first started off, so don't worry about that. In fact, I probably still have, of going back to the Twitch VOD thing, like I think that the VODs I made sure to keep were the ones that were just showing the progression of my runs over time, like just so I can go back and be like, yep, I used to have bad runs too, and hopefully that reassures somebody.
Mm.
For people that are interested in maybe getting involved in any ways, it also is worth keeping in mind you don't actually have to do runs yourself. I'd say a lot of valuable contributors to speedrunning are just people that do theory crafting and routing, but don't necessarily do full runs themselves. That's one way to contribute, is you can kind of just do the activity of breaking down the game and thinking about like what's the best way to do something, and then trust someone else to actually make it happen if you don't want to do it yourself for whatever reason. So there's a way to be involved without actually being a runner, and that's just as much appreciated, I think, within the community.
Now, you mentioned something that actually kind of just threw me for a loop, because I never actually thought of this until we've had this active discussion. You have the speedrunner, and then you have a dedicated theory crafter and a router. I didn't know that was a thing. Are they just somebody that, I mean, it's a very simplistic, it's somebody who handles the routing, but how do you test the routing? How does that work? That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, like if people have ideas, then they can just, load up the game and say like, okay, without, like, you can run a timer to see how long things take, but you can just try different ideas. Like if you run with an emulator, there's save states to just try repeating things and try things different ways. You can set up all sorts of scenarios. Yeah, it's something that, all it takes is one person to say like, well, what if we did blank? And I would say, like myself, occasionally I come up with an original idea myself that gets implemented by other speedrunners, but I'd say that's the exception rather than the rule. I'm more of the copy and master type of speedrunner, where someone else comes up with the good ideas and I just copy them.
Okay. I like the concept of routing, where I don't necessarily have to do the speed run, but I could just check the routing and be like, this is the fastest, most effective way. Now, within the PSO speedrunning Discord, is it kind of broken down where there's, speedrunners that share their experiences, and there's theory crafters that I know they're doing some hard math over there. Not necessarily hard math, but they're mathing. And then there's routers handling that. Like, do you guys just kind of work in tandem? In my mind, follow me on this. In my mind, I now imagine you as this kind of race car driver, and this is kind of your pit crew. Do you have like a dedicated pit crew of people that you reach out to when you're getting ready to start a run, or when you're planning on taking on maybe possibly working towards a new world record? Or is that something that it just kind of happens?
Never really thought about it in those terms, but I guess you could make that analogy. So like for Ultimate Glitchless, I'd say like between me, SmogChamp, and Bluescoo, we've kind of just got like a thread going where we just talk about whatever the current thought is on that category at the time, because there was a lot of math that went into that one just to figure out, oh yeah, we actually only need to get 3 God HPs, and what's the probability of doing things a certain way, and how fast is that? So in a way that's very valuable, because that's the difference between a 23-hour run versus what I did with, I briefly did some studying of like, okay, this is how to play the bosses mechanically, but like it was mostly just a brute force effort. That's the difference between a 23-hour run and the world record is, depending on what you're looking at, in the 14-15 hour range, or maybe that's the theoretical best. I don't remember exactly, but it's a huge difference once you play smarter, not just harder.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's definitely the thing about speedrunning that I've always kind of looked at it as that was the approach towards it, where you just have to kind of play smarter, not necessarily play harder. But sometimes it seems like there are those obstacles, and I feel like you're planning out the run and you're kind of and how you guys segment it to, personal times and whatnot is always, fascinating to me. But I'm assuming that's done over the course of many runs, that that you can do, Forest 1 within 4 minutes, or you could do Forest 2 within 7 minutes. It's crazy for me to see all that, and there's so many moving parts in it. I think it sounds redundant, but it's the point that I kind of keep reiterating over and over. It looks like there's just so many moving parts into it. Maybe the first question I also want to ask is, how do you know what game you want to choose? You just go, this is the game I want to choose, and you just go with it? Because I know that there's people that do speed runs of some really chaotic games. How I haven't seen like a Infinity Nikki speed run yet, or something, equally as silly, is beyond me. But like, where do you even go to approach that? You're just like, I'm just going to start on this game?
Yeah, it depends on the person, of course. Like some people try to do as many runs as many, like do like one run of as many games as they can, and that's one way to approach it. Other people just find that one game and they say, I'm gonna go master this and not really worry about anything else. And then you've got people like me that are like somewhat in the middle, where like I've got one main game, but I'll venture out to other things, and it's mostly just like is this different enough and is it something I feel like I can absorb and do? Like for me personally, I'm not really good at like precision platformers or anything that requires like precise controller movements or anything like that, and that's kind of the bread and butter of a lot of the more popular games, like your Marios, your Metroids, your Zeldas, games like that. I sometimes enjoy those games, but only really in a casual setting. I might speedrun like a Legend of Zelda game one day, but it's still, for me, something that I want to put in a decent amount of work to learn what I have to do before I take do any real runs with it.
Okay. I'm sorry, I briefly got excited at the mention of that. I was like, I wouldn't mind seeing that. That would be fun, especially if Nintendo is kind of your home, and that's the one system with a myriad of games that you've always been interested in. But it's a very interesting aspect to understand of the speedrunning world. And again, as I think we've mentioned it, if you put in !Dylie, there's actually also a link to this PSO Speedrunners Discord, as well as the current leaderboards on I believe speedrun.com or speedrunning.com. You guys can check those out there. It's wild to see. I'll be honest, I like the concept of routing. I don't know why. I never thought of that in tandem with speedrunning. It makes sense when you say it out loud and you're like, yeah, no, that makes sense. But I think I would have more fun handling behind the scenes stuff rather than being the person forward for it and helping be a part of the team without have to actively, be able to show my face. Do you feel like with Smog Champ and with the other folks that you work with, do you feel like there's just kind of like a system that you guys work so smoothly together because you guys have been working together for so long, or you're always okay with trying out different strats and different tactics with other members within the community?
I mean, I think for the most part it's just a very casual thing that's like new idea, and then people chime in or they don't. Like I said, like PSO speedrunning is mostly like not too many people working on any one thing at one time, so it's pretty awesome when you can get any sort of collaboration at all, and I really appreciate that. For some people, like on like the Discord server itself, like I don't know, like maybe roughly only half the people there have like submitted runs to the leaderboard themselves. I think a lot are maybe just people that are interested in observing what's going on, and others contribute ideas where they can. But it's not like a super sweaty, place to hang out. You might get a little nerdy from time to time, but I think we're all in good company there.
Nope, that's understandable. I think it's because you see a lot of more of those like live events that are being kind of held with like RPG Limit Break and GDQ. It looks like it's this huge orchestrated thing. Like I think one of the more recent ones that I just saw happen was a 70-person, 70-star Mario Party. Was it Mario Party? I forget what game it was. It was a Mario game where
probably Mario 64. I think
the
is
Mario
the one
64.
Where they did 70 stars or something.
Yeah,
I heard
that
about
was
that.
wild to me, and I was like, that sounds like such a big orchestration. So in my mind, I'm here thinking, every speed run in some, some caliber is equally, that crazy of an orchestration. But then hearing you explain it, it just sounds, very simple and very lax. And actually, it seems very relaxing, which kind of puts me at ease about the whole the idea of it now. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't.
I would say, like, my advice to people who, like, if you feel like you would like to speedrun, but you're like, oh, I don't know if I could ever do that, it's like, just remember that you get out of it what you put in. Like, if you don't need to set, like I said, you don't need to set your expectations to, like, you don't need to match Dylie's time to be validated, right? Like, and I think that's actually, like, it can be a very maddening way to go about things, is to always compare yourself to other people. Just use it as a way to improve yourself, right? Like I was saying earlier with getting into streaming, like, was a way for me to get over nerves a little bit. But even just doing speedruns, it's kind of a way to say, like, you have to confront your own weaknesses and then say, like, okay, I've got to learn something and learn how to do something better. So it's just kind of applying that life skill rather than necessarily having it all be about competition or feeling that you have to get anything necessarily, like, you don't have to be the best in order to get that accomplishment.
Yeah, I personally feel that in a lot of ways, regardless whether it be speedrunning or content creation, comparison is the thief of joy. So don't even consider that. I kind of want to try Seal now. I don't know. I might just do it and see what happens. I have to first learn how to download the tracker, but once we get that, we can only go up from there.
You don't even need a tracker. You don't even need a timer. You can just pick up the game, and if you do it live, just say, all right, we're starting, and we'll figure out the time later if you're ever interested in getting a officially timed thing. The things like the tracker and the things like timers, those are mostly nice to haves. So it's up to you.
All right. And now I will ask this though, and this is PSO speedrunning related. Is there a preferred section ID to go for? Because I know I see all of you guys just choose one letter. You choose A's and C's, and then you do either uppercase C or lowercase c or C dot. What is the preferred section ID? Can I at least get that? This
came up the other day, and I would say the answer is every section ID has its own niche depending on which version and which category and which class you're running. So even poor Whitehall gets its time to shine on version 1 and on some obscure categories, and I'd say the one that's most commonly ran on at least glitchless categories is Redria, because that's a very OP section ID that just gives you more slots and better units and better armors all around. It's pretty good compared to the other IDs that are just like, oh, you get a little bit more of this weapon type, which some people can choose an ID for that. I personally like Orin for Seal because you get more daggers, but some people run Bluefull for Partisans, some people have run Pinkle for Night Power, because due to a weird implementation of the game, Night Power is very common on Pinkle, and so you get a lot of power boosts that way. So there's not really one universally agreed best ID, but there are ones that are preferred depending on what you're running.
Is it horrible that the thought crossed my mind of doing a Seal speedrun? Because I know people have expressed frustration towards Rangers and Seals, but I just want to know. I just want to give it a shot. I want to give them a chance.
So far be it from me to tell people how to play their video games, because that gets me into trouble if I try to do that. But I generally would recommend not starting with Seal when getting into glitchless speedrunning. If you wanted to do that, do it as a glitched run where you learn the weapon stacking trick, because the problem with Rangers early on is if they don't get the right kind of gear to drop, they're going to have a very hard time getting through the second boss. And it's a very slow, painful death if you just don't have the DPS before your heals run out.
Okay, a weapon stacking glitch? That's a very real thing? I'm sorry. Forgive me for my ignorance. I've never heard of that before. That's why I was like, wait, what?
Oh, so I believe since you mentioned the Rockest run from 2021, that probably would have been a run that used it, because I don't think I've ever run Rockest without it, but it's a... PSO has some, we'll say, exploits on the console versions that allow you to, well, let's just say there was a pretty famous duping glitch. That's probably the way it was originally found, but it also allows you to do things like equip, just a couple dozen sabers all at once, and that gives you the ATP and the power and accuracy benefit of all of those sabers at once. So going through the run, you end up basically one-shotting most of the things in normal mode, one way or another. And that's where Ranger shines, is in that category that allows that glitch, such that their otherwise very underwhelming power is offset by the fact that they have a gun that can one-shot things.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I didn't fully understand, but now with an explanation behind it, that makes more sense. Makes more sense.
So that I would say, if the category, some people look at that, and I was originally like this too, was like, yeah, that's not as interesting. I'd rather do glitchless. I'll say this: if you are really set on doing Ranger, I recommend learning the glitch, because it's a little bit to learn, but then that's really the only thing you really have to learn, is figure out how to get those sabers equipped, and then just go pew pew for the rest of the game.
Well, I would also imagine for anybody wanting to try a PSO speedrun from the jump, your best bet is to start off glitchless before even trying glitch. Or is that wrong in that line of thinking?
I think it's down to preference. I started as glitchless, but I find the glitched run, what we also just call any percent, is very good for just learning maps, because it's about twice as fast as a glitchless run. So if you just want to get runtime on like learning how to run through the maps and just start memorizing them, any percent's a great way to do that, because you can do it twice as fast.
Oh, that's actually good. Okay. You given some ideas. I have a think now. I might just randomly stream this one day and not tell anybody and be like, well, I'm just doing it. Whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna go for it. And
do it.
With such force. No, wait. No. Okay, I will. I'm not gonna tell you one though. And don't
awesome.
Tell me if you're in chat when that happens. Don't tell me when you're in chat. Just please lurk.
Yeah, I'll just say GG when it's done.
Okay, all right. I respect that. It's literally just gonna be forest, and I don't even know if I can get. It's all right. I'm not gonna plan it. I'm just gonna do it.
You can do it. You can, if you take your time, you can do it in under 2 hours, with a very casual pace. Because all you got to do is learn the trick, and then just read a map and walk through. And if you die, it's not really a big deal on the GameCube version. So don't feel too much pressure.
Okay, and I should do it on the GameCube version. That's the other thing too. Okay, just don't tell me when you're in. Just tell me GG's after.
Yep. I would say caveat that console version is not really a requirement, but like the trick will not work on Blue Burst for one thing. So, and then Dreamcast is got other issues that will make it more beginner unfriendly.
Oh, I have Volume 1 PSO on Dreamcast, so I wouldn't even touch that with a 10-foot pole, because it's not even version 2, it's version 1.
Version 1 is a very fun category, because you can additionally use a trick that lets you kick your way through doors, but that's a little bit trickier to learn.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna learn this glitch. I'll report back. Thanks, Coach Dylie. Thanks.
Awesome.
I'm scared. But with that, we are actually going to be wrapping up tonight's episode. If any folks did have any final questions, please be sure to get those in. But otherwise, I think we're going to be wrapping up things here. Now, Dylie, I also want you to promote if you have any fun things coming up on the horizon or any things that you're planning on looking forward to doing. I would love to be able to share that with the chat as well.
Since I already did my annual all difficulties thing, that's probably going to be on the shelf for a while, so probably just going to get back into doing the, let's just say, relatively saner category of just doing any percent glitchless, which is, for me at this point, seeing if I can get a good technique disc before day relay, and then usually not getting that and just going back and doing forest and caves again. But I've been doing that pretty regularly. I might get into Seal glitchless speedruns again. I generally do something that's usually speedrun related, or at least PSO related for sure. On Sundays very regularly, and I try to stream other days like Thursday through Sunday, but a little bit less consistently there. Like I said, I'm kind of also doing some other non-PSO stuff, like doing that Path of Radiance casual playthrough roughly every Thursday.
Oh, even Lantis is saying the trick was patched in PSO episode 1 and 2 plus. You need version 1.0 or 1.1 if you're playing on GameCube.
True.
I have to check and see what version I have because I actually am playing off the physical disc. Oh, that's going to change. It was patched in episode 1 and 2 plus, which is what I have. Shit. Okay. Good to know.
Well, there's still nothing stopping you from doing glitches, but then yeah, I would definitely recommend Seal if that sounds interesting.
I would not be opposed to doing. I would actually personally like to do glitchless. Oh no, this Gundam's attacking me. Moment. I had to check my library real fast. I wouldn't be opposed to doing glitchless actually to start out, and Seal glitchless is a very natural thing for me. I'm one of those horrific Seals that love to just use Last Swan, though, I'm going to be honest. So not having Last Swan would make me a little sad early on, but I'll get over it. I'll cope.
Yeah, well, one of the best things about Seal in the speedrun context is you're still pretty competent with guns, even though you're not a ranger. So you can get a lot of work out of the basic drops that fall there. Yeah. One thing I would say that I probably forgot to mention before is like, there might have been a specific question of like, if you want to get in, like, how would you go about it? And I would just say, like, if you've decided yes, you want, I kind of dodged around. I was like, well, just remember, you don't actually have to run. But like, if you do want to run, a lot of people ask the question, and sometimes they get into it, and I kind of realized like, oh, they never actually like watched a video all the way through. And I think that's probably the easiest way to start is just, pull up something on the leaderboard and just watch a run all the way through, and then you don't have to necessarily understand everything that's going on there, but at least start build a list of questions, and if there's anything you don't understand, maybe go ask someone or do your own research or try to figure it out. There's a lot of things in PSO specifically that are just minor optimizations that you don't have to worry about for a first time run. I would say for PSO specifically, the most important thing is just know where you're going. Get a map if you don't have the maps memorized, and the rest is kind of intuitive. Like, yeah, don't die. Dying is slow, and try to avoid getting hit because lying on the ground is slow. So, from that, like, it's hard to tell people everything they need to know without it being too much information for like a first time run, because 80% of what you need to know is just go in the right direction.
And not to sound sappy or anything like that, but a legitimate question: are there any PSO speedrunners that you've come to find great as, like, not just friends, but maybe as mentors, or not necessarily people that you look up to, but people that you very highly respect, that you feel that you've kind of grown or progressed in your journey just from learning and speaking with them about those things?
I mean, I think I got into PSO speedrunning on Twitch after following Verlix for who knows how long that's been. It's been a very long time. And he was doing a lot of phoneme, and then I think he's pretty much on every class in some capacity now. And he streams a lot of different things, but I think I did catch him doing Raw Marl of all things. And yes, when I say, like, I don't recommend Ranger speedruns, you can tune into his streams maybe to find out why that is. And I'm sure he will freely admit that as well. But yeah, he's one of the greatest of all time for sure. And Blue Scoo is also pretty notable because he's done a lot of pioneering of episode 2 specifically. He is the current world record holder in glitchless episode 2 on like pretty much all the classes that I think exist. Maybe I might be forgetting something, but maybe not every class has been done, but like at least Hunter, Ranger, Force, like he's done it all. It's pretty wild, and it's a completely different vibe from episode 1 because episode 2 is just 10 times more deadly in a lot of ways.
Oh, I don't like episode 2 very much. I'll be the first to tell you. I'm like, I don't mind. I will run episode 1 over and over and be comfortable and at ease. As soon as I see episode 2, I'm like, oh, it's not my time. Oh, not today.
I will say speedrunning episode 2 gave me a greater appreciation for episode 2 because if you play episode 2 casually, you find Sonic Team to have made some very interesting design decisions, and I'm being very charitable by keeping it as that. But once you kind of learn some tricks to mitigate all the BS that is thrown at you, it's not so bad. It's pretty cool. But it's a very intimidating episode when things are very punishing, especially if you do not kill them quickly. And what's cool about the speedrun is the goal is to minimize that from happening, so you can if a mistake does happen, things kind of fall off the rails, but seeing a very clean execution of episode 2 is very enjoyable.
Okay. All right. I mean, I will watch episode 2. I think I'm gonna keep it.
I do not. I don't recommend episode 2 for a beginner either. if for no other reason than the fact that it's about twice as long.
Oh, well, I would just be there. Could you just imagine you're tuning in? It's like, oh, Pizza's finally gonna do her first, PSO speedrun. I'm like, here we go. We're doing episode 2. You're like, ah, shit. I didn't. That was a bad idea. Let's crawl before we can walk on this one. Episode 1, I think definitely I would do. Episode 1, glitchless Seal feels like a good track and a good course, but I actually would really love to also get an idea on routing for that. I would like to get more familiarity on the maps because for somebody in real life who has no sense of direction, routing fascinates me. I would love to be someone's Siri or someone's Google Maps. I'd be like, left turn here, homie. So.
Yep, and there's no harm in there's no stupid questions with that because it's not always intuitive, and like when it comes to the speedrun, like nothing is guaranteed, right? Like if you're pushing for a certain time, eventually you start getting into territories of what we'd just say things aren't reliable, so you have to accept that, like, oh, sorry, you didn't get to Dark Falls with enough HP, and you unfortunately got hit by the attack that is completely undodgeable, so sorry, better luck next time. Like, but if some people are saying, nope, I'm fine, I'd rather just play safe, you can route around that too. So there's not always just one way to get to the end. Like, there's theoretical fastest, and then there's like reliable fast, and other kinds of variations like that.
Yeah, there's an optimal fast, but there's also, I think that's a good primer. I think that's a good starting point. So hopefully you guys took as many tips as I did. I'm probably going to go back and watch this VOD and remember all of the stuff that I said and hope that I can do those things. But I will give it a shot. I'll definitely give it a shot, and I'll report back, and I'll let you know. But again, Dylie, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. I really appreciate it. I am very glad that I was able to get you on here, and I hope you have tons more amazing streams coming up in the future, and more good things coming your way, as well as continued success and just good vibes, good chimes all around. So
Yep, thanks so much for having me. It was fun to chat.
yeah, I appreciate it. What we are going to do though right now is we are going to actually get ready to get a Matorado started, which is something that we have here on the channel. I'm going to actually see if we can find another fellow speedrunner who is speedrunning right now. I do follow a couple, so there's a very distinct possibility. Maybe
I've got one in mind if you don't find one.
Oh, do you? Actually, you know what? I'll take your suggestion. Because this is how I learn. I love meeting new people this way.
So there's a French streamrunner. There's a French speedrunner named NTX_evil. He's currently streaming in the retro category, but he looks like he's getting towards the end of a run that he's just playing Phoneme, and he kind of plays occasionally. It looks like he's just trying to finish the run at this point. So he's a pretty friendly guy.
So let's get this on going. Again, I'm going to move this on over to the just chatting portion. Again, thank you so much, Dylie. We are going to get this right on over then to NTX Evil. If you have any other questions and you want to check out Dylie live, please be sure to check out Dylie over on his channel over at twitch.tv/Dylie. You can also check him out as well. I believe he is active within the... That's the wrong command. He is also active within the PSO speedrunning Discord server, which you guys can also check out. And if you want to ever see the leaderboards in real time, you can check those out over at speedrun.com/series/Fantasy Star Online Series. And with that, I will see you guys on Thursday, where we will be playing some more PSO Blue Burst. We're going to be doing some more leveling on our Seal, and then I'm not telling anybody, but I will be doing a PSO speedrun. Please look forward to it.
You'll be fine. Don't worry. Don't sweat it.
No, I'm not going to think about it. That's the thing, is you don't think about it. Just do it. I'm going to Shia LaBeouf it, and I'm just going to do it and see how that goes. But all right, let's get this up and running here. And I think we are going to be good to go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been the Head Maid in Charge here, Pizza Maid. It has been a pleasure to serve you all. If you guys are going to be wanting to watch this again, there will be a VOD available, probably going live on Saturday, so please look forward to it then. But this has been the Head Maid in Charge. It has been a pleasure to serve you, and thank you for joining us for our first episode of Margarita's Happy Hour. And never, ever, 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 ever forget that this little android loves you. We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.